Hey guys, and welcome to episode 5 of Surg Feed the Beast Horizons Let's Play Season 3. I'm standing out here, that's a lot to say at once. I'm standing out here and these still aren't grown. They take forever. Luckily we did find a way to get ender pearls last episode. And if you remember, last episode, hop down here, this wasn't working for us. And I actually have a solution. So let me get everything together and we'll get started. Okay, so now I should be able to make the circuit board. I just need one set. You can see here we're going through a lot of steel. I had one stack and we're already down to almost half a stack. And so I'm going to need to make the screen, so I'm going to need some glass panes. Luckily, I made sure to grab the glass. And in this case, I'm just going to make 2. Because I have the circuits for them. And I have a shaft unit. Do I have a mount? No. So let's make another set of base plates. And we'll go ahead and make... Oh, I guess I didn't need another set. One mount. In this case, I'm just going to make one. I'm going to save the screen for later when I have more steel. And ender pearl and a shaft. And I have that. Okay. So the shaft, the ender pearl, the mount, and 1 screen. And that makes us 2 dynameters. So let's go ahead and pick this up. And now we should be able to plop a screen here, the dynameter, rotate it. Remember I said the input comes in the green, the output, when you have a red, the output goes out the red. So if we turn on our motor here, this shows exactly what it's producing, or what's coming through this. We have little over 1 kilowatt of power. We have 4 torque and 256 rads. But remember, let me turn that back off. Remember, we need over 2k rads. So there's a couple different ways that we can achieve that. I can go and convert it with the gearboxes here, and I can convert them, to more speed or more torque. But from my testing, what I'd actually like to do is make an industrial coil. So again, a lot more steel. Do we have a shaft unit left? We do. We have 1 shaft unit, but we're going to need another one in the magnetizing unit. So let me make 1 more, just so we have a couple. And we're going to need some brake discs. You can see that this gets very intensive on the crafting here. So there we go. So we have the 2x gear unit. We need a shaft bearing. So I can just throw 1 piece of the steel in here and get a couple of bearings. I think I need more than 1. And if I surround those, there we go. So we have the shaft bearing. And I'm going to need another gear and 2 more. Okay, so I have those. And I have a gear. So I should be able to make 1 brake disc. Wow, we're going through steel. So I'm going to need another shaft unit, 2 shaft units, and some wound springs. So that'll get me the springs that I need, and around a shaft unit. So there's our tension coil, our brake disc. We need one more shaft unit and one more mount. Unfortunately, I'm out of steel. I do have the base plates for the mount, and I do have a shaft unit, but I don't actually have the mount. So I'm going to need just a little bit more steel. So I'm going to take half of our iron and convert that. By now, our blast furnace should be nice and heated up. Yep, max temperature that I can get with lava. And I'll let this cook up. There we go, we have our steel, and the last thing, I just need another mount. And we should be able to put it all together. We have the mount, we have the tension coil, we have the brake disc, and I believe it's, let's see, right there. So now, I have the industrial coil. Now the cool thing about this is if we rotate it, it will actually take the power and it will store it. So let's go ahead and turn that on and get it to start storing. And that is kind of loud. So I think I'm going to need one other block. And I'm going to make something from extra utilities. And that is the muffler. So I'm going to need a note block. Easy enough to make. That's my jungle wood. And don't have any wool. Let's see if I have... I've been growing some cotton out here. So let me replant these real quick. Now you can just right click and take some of the things off, like cotton is one of them. But if you break them, you actually get more than the one that you might get. So I should have a little bit of cotton here. Not sure that that's going to be enough. Nope. Let's go find some sheep. Because I'm going to go crazy listening to that sound. I hear a sheep. That's an ocelot. There it is. So I have 5. Not quite enough yet. Regrow your wool, Mr. Sheep. Okay, so that's enough. Just enough, but enough. Let me make my way back over to my base here. I'd really love to have some kind of flight. And I know of some ways to get flight, but to me I think it's a little game breaking and overpowered. So I'm going to play with it in creative just to test it, to see what it's like. And we may go that route depending on what the drawbacks are. And I'll show you in the next episode what I'm talking about. So first thing we need is a note block and surround that by wool. And we get a sound muffler. And your home is right there. Oh, so much better. Okay. So the other thing, remember I was saying about the different tools that you can make? And now we want the angular transducer. So I just need a little bit more in the way of wood. I'm just going to take a stack of wood, bring it down here. So it's not a hard recipe as long as you have an ender pearl. So angular transducer. Now what this will do is this will tell us about the block. And you can see here that this tells us that this is an DC electric engine and what it's outputting. We can see here that it's receiving from the DC electric engine, but if we also click here, it'll tell us this is how much this industrial coil has stored. So now what we should be able to do is take our magnetizing unit, plop it here, go ahead and rotate it so that the input's coming from our industrial coil. And if we look at now one thing with the industrial coil, it cannot input and output at the same time, right? It's one or the other. You can either have it storing power or outputting power. It cannot do both at the exact same time. So, and in order for it to output the power, you need a redstone signal. So I'm going to plop that there, and we need to know what we want it at. So in this case, we really only need 1 torque, I believe, because the only thing that it requires is speed. So it requires a certain amount of power and at least 2048 rads of speed. So let's see if we can figure this out. And the way to figure it out is your rads times your torque equals your power. So in this case, I'm just going to pull up my calculator here, which unfortunately you can't see. I'm going to do 32768 divided by 2048. So we know so I need 16 torque is basically what that means. So what I can do is I can set this to 16 torque and 2048. Rads. And if I go and I throw my shaft unit in here, I should be able to turn that on, and it should be getting the power that it needs. So let's see if this works. And we can see that it's using up the power that was in it. Doesn't look like we quite had enough stored up. I'm going to have to give this quite a while to store up a lot of power. These little DC engines, they don't put out a lot. So since we're using the DC engine, actually, you know what? I'm going to move this to be in the wall. There we go. So now it's not in the way, and we're going to go ahead and turn this off, let it turn off, and I'm going to make another one. And I'm going to show you how we can converge the power into one. Okay, for the next piece, to double our power, I have 2 DC electric engines, right? But I can't just stick 2 right here. It's only 1 block. So we're going to need a couple of things. The first thing that I'm going to need is a bevel gear. And the reason that I'm going to need that is because this allows you to turn the angle, or to turn the way that the power is flowing. And right now it's all in one line. So I can, actually for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this down. So that way I have a little bit more room to work with. pick these up. Now, I lost all the power that was in it, but there wasn't a lot anyway. So we have that. We'll throw down our dynameter. Okay. So now what I should be able to do is actually make a shaft junction. So I'm going to need a gear. I have a couple of units already, and I have a couple of base panels. I need some more base panels. And I'm going to need a gear, which is like that. Makes a couple. And that should do it. So if I put my gear in the center, put my steel, my shaft units, and there we go. So now I have my shaft junction, and I'm actually going to need at least one more shaft unit, because remember, we're trying to electrolyze or magnetize the shaft. So what I want to do is I want to take the shaft junction here, and if I put that down, you notice it has 2 green and 1 red, and I can rotate it. So now there's 2 inputs, 1 output. Now I can shift right click, and that'll do 2 outputs, 1 input, but in this case I want them to converge. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you do converge energy, or the power here, you need to make sure that the speed is the same. In this case, we're using 2 DC electric engines, so it's not a big deal. And remember, I said that they face the same way that you face. So if I put my lever down here and turn them on, you can now see that we're doing 2 kilowatts of power. It's twice the torque, but the same speed that we were doing before. And you can see here this is converging them and outputting them into my dynameter. So now, if we look here, now that's filling up twice as fast. Now it's still going to take a little while, but only half the time. So I'm going to take care of that zombie, sleep through the night, and see how much power we have. So I've been letting this run for a little while, and I actually found in the configs I can change the volume of these. So I changed it to 10% of what it actually is. There is a way, now I think it changes it for all of the RotaryCraft machines. So I may not like that. Yeah, I gotta take care of that. The blast, it's either the blast furnace or the lava under it keeps setting this block on fire. So I might have to move it somewhere too. But what I was saying, there is a way to disable the sound for just the engines, and I may end up doing that. You guys can tell me what you think in the comments. And the reason that I wanted to do that instead of the sound muffler is because the sound muffler muffles all sound. So it's a little annoying, number 1. Number 2, when these sound files start, right, there's a start and an end to them. They're whatever length, probably like 15, 20 seconds. When they start and end, the sound muffler doesn't pick it up right away. So it'll be loud for like 2-3 seconds, and then it'll get quiet again. You've seen it earlier in the video. Or maybe it was last episode. Anyway, so I just went in the configs and fixed it permanently. And I've been letting this run, and you can see here we're getting a decent amount of energy stored up in it. And I found out that I was doing something wrong. It doesn't need just a shaft in there. What it needs is, I don't know if I need to do, no, I shouldn't have to do it in the work table there. It's a specific type of shaft right there. It's the shaft core is what it needs. So let's go ahead and throw the shaft core in there. And I have this set up the way that it needs to be. It's got the right speed and the right torque to get the output power that we want. And we're about 9.5, I'm guessing that's megajoules, or I'm not sure. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And if we look in here, I'll give it a second, it should start showing how much magnetism it has. There it goes. So it has 1 microtesla. And this should run out of energy actually really quickly. So while that's expending its energy and magnetizing the right type of shaft, let's go ahead and start making our AC engine. Okay, so we're going to need some gold, and I do have more steel and some redstone. Do I have redstone down here? Of course not. So I have the gold, I have everything else. I have a redstone torch. Let me just grab some redstone here. And I'll just leave this downstairs. Actually, while I'm up here, just because I put it back earlier, I'm just going to grab some wood and leave it down here too. Just in case. So let's see here. So we have the 4 gold. We want to make the coil here. So there's 1 coil. We need a shaft unit, which we have, and 2 base plates and a piece of redstone. So we have 1 base plate. So let's make another set, and we should be good now. Wow, we just have 1 piece of gold. That's all of the gold that I have cooked up right now. And I'm trying to not cook it up. So here we go. So now we have our AC engine. Let's see where this is. 23. How much energy is left in here? Okay, so that's still quite a bit. I'm going to let this finish and expend all of its energy. Like I said before, remember, when this is using energy, it cannot keep storing it. So let's go ahead and turn that off. And the reason that this is doing this is because these engines are slowing down at different rates. And remember, I had said that the speed needs to match on these shaft junctions. Well, that's what happens when it doesn't. If you let it go for too long, this will break, and we don't want that to happen. So we're no longer going to need these now that we don't need that either. Now that we have this getting nice and magnetized for us, let's see if it tells us here. No, it doesn't. It just tells us. Okay. And 37. Not sure how long that's going to last, but I mean, anything's better than nothing. So we no longer need this. Now, if I set down my AC electric engine right here, and the DC electric engines just need a constant redstone signal, but the AC electric engines need a pulse. And I actually found out through some testing that I can keep it basically maxed out with 3 pulses, with 3 clocks. So let's see how I want to do this. Because I need to keep them all connected up. Let's see if we can do... that'll work. That'll work right there. Nope, that won't work. Because I need it to... Well, let's try it. If I do that, and I just put my clocks back here. Now, as we get more into tech and get some more mods under our belt, we're going to clean things up a little bit. But let's see. So that pulses. That pulses. See, now it's pulsing twice as fast. And now it's 3 times as fast. So that should take care of this engine here once we get the core in it. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, it's almost done. Almost, come on. Finish faster. Now, I'm using all of the energy that we had saved up, and that took a long time. I'm talking a couple of hours. I just stayed logged in and sat here. There we go. So we can turn this off now. And if we look inside of here, so 63. Now, we can take this magnetized core, throw it in here. Nope, doesn't look like these are connecting. It's not connecting to this block right here. Let me see if I do that. How can we get that to connect? Let's try... Ah, I know. Let's do it this way. So now that's connected. And... You know what? I wonder if I put them under here. And just run the clocks like this. And go... That's pulsing. Pulsing. There we go. Look at that. Now you can see here the power fluctuates just a little bit. Right? And that's just because there's a little bit of downtime. But that is a whole lot more power. Look at the torque on that thing. These little DC engines, they only put out 4 torque. Now if we look, see how fast that thing is spinning up. Now the big question is, how fast does it lose its magnetism? It's still at 63. Yep, still at 63. That's good. That's really good. So now we have some really decent power generation. So what did we want all this power for? Well, let's get into that. I'm going to break this here. We don't need it right now. And throw that in here. We don't need the shaft junction, the DC engines. All of that should be okay. Okay. So what I wanted to make to get more out of my ores is the extractor. That's why I needed the 1 netherrack. So let's go ahead and put this together. I need some stone and some wood. I have cobblestone here. Some wood. I have some stone cooking upstairs. Or no, I have glass cooking. The stone's right here. I'm going to go ahead and sleep. And I'm going to go ahead and take down the glass, because I know I'm going to need it. I know I need the stone. Let's see what else we're going to need. I'm going to need 2 buckets of water. I do know that. So let me grab that real quick too. No, no, no. My torches. Stop. Wrecking all my torches. Let's try opening the door with something other than a water bucket. And there's one more thing that I'm going to need. The ender pearls. And I think that was it. Okay. If I need something else, I'll just come back up. So, let's go ahead and make our... It was on my mind, and I knew I needed something. The 1 piece of netherrack. Okay, so let's make the extractor. So, we have the steel. We now have the planks. I have the stone. 1 base plate and 1 shaft unit. I have 1 base plate, and do I have any shaft units in here? No. So let's make a set of shaft units. And we're going to need an impeller and a drill. Well, the drill's pretty easy. So now we have 1 drill and the impeller. And I do have some gears, so that's easy enough. So let's see if I can get this right. I know this is down here. Steel, steel. Drill was right there. A piece of wood was up top. Let me look at the recipe. The shaft, stone, and base plate. Okay, I almost had it. Stone, shaft, and base plate. So there we go, the extractor. Now the extractor needs a couple things. One, it needs the power. But the other thing that it needs is water. So let's go ahead and set it up, and then we'll worry about the water. Now I'm going to put it right here, and that's because it has to take power from the bottom. So that's going to be a little complicated. Well, the power here only comes out this way. So we need to get it to go up. And the way that we're going to do that is right here with a beveled gear. Now these beveled gears, they're a little tricky. It took me a little while to figure out how to use them. And I think I might have everything but some base plates. And I'll show you so that way you're not stumped the same way I was. Let's see. So if we go... Oh, I still need more base plates, right? One more base plate. One more base plate. A gear. Steel, okay. 2 shafts and a piece of steel. So there we go. We have our bevel gear. And if we plop it down, it's not facing the way that we want it, right? And so what I had tried doing was using my screwdriver. And you can see it doesn't really do anything. It just highlights the different sides. Right, now each side has a different color with the screwdriver. It also, angular transducer says the same thing. It has different sides, right, or different colors. So we wanted to input on the purple here, and we want it to go up, so we output on the blue. So if you right-click it without the screwdriver or the angular transducer, it'll show us that. So we want to input on the purple and output on the blue. And we can see here, now it turned the way that we want it. So now we have the power here, and if we hit the little question mark here, you can see we require, there's different stages, and we require, the highest torque is 512, and the highest speed is 8192. Okay, so let's go ahead and program that in here. 8192 and 512. So that should get us what we need. But remember I said we need water. So what I'd like to do is put out the fire and go to our mod list here, and I want to go with extra utilities. And if we go here, I want a liquid transfer node. Not too bad. So we need a bucket, some iron, some, I believe it'll use lappies. There we go. So it'll use lappies, a transfer node. Okay. So let's see if we can make that. First thing we're going to need is a chest, because we need to make the item transfer node. And ender pearl. Okay. We need transfer pipes. Not those, not energy pipes. I just want regular transfer pipes. Okay, so slabs, glass, and redstone. Well, I have the glass. I have the slabs. This is why I was grabbing that stuff upstairs, because I knew I'd need it. So transfer pipes. It gives us a lot, right? And that's good, because it's not very expensive. So now we can get transfer node, and we want a liquid one. So I'm going to need a bucket, 2 pieces of iron, which unfortunately I turned all my iron into steel. But I do have... I can take 1 iron ore and at least crush that down. And what was the other thing I needed? Oh, lapis. So I need 2 lapis. And I'm going to need a bucket. And I just happen to have a bucket. Cook this up. So once we get the liquid transfer node, iron, bucket, lapis, transfer node. Okay. So we have everything we need. 1, 2. And I'm going to put this, you know what, I'm going to dig right back here, because I just want it to come in right here. So, the easiest way to do that is to go and make an infinite water source right here. And let's make that node that we need, the liquid transfer node. So there we go. So we have 1 liquid transfer node. And if I put cobblestone, because you have to put down the transfer node, right? And you can't just put it on top of water. So now we have that. I break this. And if we look into our transfer node, you can see it's sucking up water. But it wants to put it somewhere. Easy enough. We use our transfer pipes, and we'll tell it we want it to go right into here. So now if we open it up, we can see that every now and then it's emptying, right? And that's because it's putting water into the extractor. So, and it's kind of hard to see the interface, so I turned off NEI. Last thing we need, extractors already, we have the power set up already. Let's start with our iron. And I'm just going to use 1 stack for right now. Now remember I had said this is going to help us get a lot more out of our ores. What this is going to do is it's going to turn iron, it's going to pulverize it into iron dust, right? Then the iron dust goes up to here. And then from there it adds water and it turns it into an iron slurry is what it's called. That goes up here, right? Then it's going to, I guess, grade it down, right? And it's going to turn into an iron solution. And that's going to go up here. And then from there it's going to basically kind of cook it, and that'll turn into iron flakes. Now each flake can be turned into an iron ingot. And each step here has a 50% chance of doubling your ore. So we have a 50% chance of turning this 64 into 128, right? And then that 128, 50% chance of doubling that, 256. Then we have a 50% chance of doubling that again, and then a 50% chance of doubling that. So in theory, 1 stack of iron ore could turn into, who knows, maybe 1,000 iron. So now I have this all set up. We have the output speed that we need. We have the torque that we need. And let's see how this is doing. We still have 63, so that's still really, that's going strong. And you can see here we have a lot more stored than we did before. So let's turn this on and cross our fingers that everything was set up correctly. So we have our power going out. Look at that. Here it goes. Turned into iron dust. So we didn't get 2 there. We did get 2 there. So it turns 2 slurry. And once that slurry finishes, it should turn into a solution. Uh-oh. Why did we just... Oh, we ran out of power. So you can see this takes a lot of power. And can you imagine if I was trying to do it off 2 DC engines? That would take forever. So this is going to get us more, but at a cost. And the power is the cost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this build up. I need to get definitely more iron before we can do really anything else. And we're also way over that wrapping up point. I mean 10 minutes over. But I wanted to finish this build. So I'm going to let power build up here and process all of my ores. And I hope you enjoyed. And with that, I will see you guys later.